Well, hey guys, today I'm working on my neighbor's Club Cub Carryall. The symptom is it wouldn't crank when they tried to start it. Everything was running and then it slowed really down when they were cranking it, and eventually it wouldn't do anything. So first thing you want to check was the battery, and of course they jumped it with their own jumper cables and everything, and they said it didn't make any difference, and I believe them, but I double checked it. I checked the battery, which is right here, plus side is right there, and it had good 12 volts on it. Well, actually 12.8, 13.2, give or take, somewhere along in there, and that was good. So I said, well, let me see what goes on when I try to start it. And on these particular units, there's a key here, and then there's the gear shift, forward, neutral, and reverse. And then down here by the seat, somewhere, it's under the seat, there's a operating and maintenance switch. And normally when you start these guys, you turn the key to on, and you see that light comes on there. And then you press the gas pedal. I call it the gas pedal. You push the gas pedal, and that actually activates the starter. You'll hear the solenoid click and the starter crank, and then once it takes off, you get moving. And typically you start these either in forward or in reverse. And you can hear the reverse beeper in there. But when you're working on these things, obviously you don't want it to start and take off in your shop. So there's a switch right here under the seat that's for maintenance and operate. And you see I have it in maintenance mode here. What that does, it allows you to start this thing in neutral. And that way you can start it and it doesn't take off and run. Normally you cannot start it in neutral and when it's in the operating position. So that's really what that maintenance and operate switch does. So I put it into maintenance, and I turned on the key and pressed the accelerator pedal, gas pedal, and nothing happened. So the next thing I wanted to do was check the solenoid, which is the starter solenoid right here. You can see it good. Get enough light in there. That's where the two big cables go in. The one on the left comes from the battery, and the one on the right goes to the starter. So what I did was hook my voltmeter up, and I'm going to show you that in a minute, between the ground of the battery and the side of the solenoid that goes to the starter, and press the gas pedal and see if I get 12 volts on that. So let me do that. I'm going to turn on my meter here to 12 volt to DC. Turn on the light here so we can backlight it. And I'm just going to connect this over here to the solenoid. I'm just using an alligator clip to connect that because I'm doing this by myself. If you had somebody to help you, it would be great. So here's the meter. I'm going to turn the key on and press the gas pedal. And you see it goes to 12 volts. That tells me the solenoid is pulled in and it's going to be sending 12 volts to the starter. Now let me turn this back off. Now I've already removed the starter because I kind of did some pre-troubleshooting here. But there's basically two wires that go to the starter. There's a ground and a plus 12 volts. And the plus 12 volts is this one I have marked F1. And the ground here is this one marked A1. So I'm going to move my test leads over to there, which is what I did when I was originally testing it. Put the ground on this one, and I'll put the plus over here on this one. And that's going to tell me if I'm getting 12 volts to the starter. So again, we're going to do the same thing with the meter. Turn the key on. Press the accelerator pedal, and you see I got 12 volts there going to where the starter was. So from that I deduced that the starter was bad. So I pulled the starter off, and here's the starter laying here on the floor of the vehicle. And there's an A1 and an A2 here on the back. and a jumper and an F1 and an F2 on the side. Now the ground on this one goes to A1 and F1, and that's for I believe a clockwise rotation. And to switch it to counterclockwise, I would move this jumper from here to A1, and the ground would then go there, and that reverses the direction. So we're going to keep the same direction, obviously. So I took this off, and then I hooked it up to my little test bench, and I hooked a 12-volt supply to it, and the motor turned. I said, well, that's strange. So I put it back in the vehicle, and I hit the gas pedal again, and it turned. And I didn't have the belt on it, which connected it to the motor. I said, well, let me try something here. And I grabbed the pulley on the front there, and I was easily able to stop the starter with my hand. So it'll turn, but there's no torque. And obviously with no torque, the motor's not going to crank over and start. So that was my troubleshooting procedure. I've got a motor on order, and it should be here today. And we'll put it in, and I'll get back with you guys, and we'll see if my troubleshooting was sound. Hey guys, that starter has arrived. I'm going to unbox it here and confirm that it's the right one, and be sure we get the jumper wire in the correct place so the rotation is correct. Packs pretty well. Got the pulley on it, which is always good. A lot of people, when they take things in, alternators and starters and whatnot for exchange, they take them right into the auto parts dealer and they leave them, and they get home and they find out they're missing a pulley, a bracket, some kind of connector or something. So anytime I exchange anything, I pay the deposit and then take it back after I make sure that I've gotten everything off of it that I need to get off of it. So in this case, we're going to need to put this jumper wire here on here so that it goes the right direction. And on this one, it goes from A2 to F2. So we're going to take it off of here, excuse me, F1, A2 to F1. So we have F1 over here and A2 there, so we'll just put that jumper right on there. And we can get that guy off of here. I'm going to clean that up a little bit here. Okay, it went from A2 to F1. So with this one we have F1, A2. And again, you move this jumper to change the rotation of the starter, which we don't need to change the rotation. I believe this is a clockwise rotation. And what we'll have is A1 will go to ground and F2 will go to the positive side where the solenoid goes. So when I get over to the cart, I'll show you putting this in, and we'll set the camera up and we'll get this guy installed. Hopefully we got a good vantage point here. A little difficult to see and with the dump bed and everything on there, but I have the starter put in place. I'm going to put the mounting bolts in. We'll leave this one out until I get the cables connected back on it. This one here is the A2, which is the ground. It goes here on the back. I'm going to take my gloves off so I don't drop the nut and lock washer off of that. And this is the F2, which is over here. Naturally on this starter, it's not in the same position, so the wire is going to be a little short. See if I can reroute that a little better, make it reach. Still going to be a little snug, but I think it'll be okay. And this is for the voltage regulator for the alternator portion of the starter. This starter is has a dual function. It starts, and then once the engine is running, it switches over and actually charges the battery. So it kind of performs two functions. Okay. Now with that cable being on there kind of tight, I don't know if we're going to be able to adjust that to get the belt on it properly. Let's see here. I'm going to maybe lift that up a little bit. Put my gloves back on here. I'm going to need to make that wire a little longer. I'm probably going to have to undo it from this end and slide it out. Okay, I got the wire stretched good enough to put on there, but I did notice one thing when I was slipping the belt on the pulley there. The pulley is the correct OD, outside diameter, but the inside was a flat pulley, not a V-belt pulley, so it wouldn't have worked on this, so I had to take it back off and swap the pulleys from the old unit to the new unit. And again, like I mentioned earlier, this is a perfect reason not to give a exchange before you make sure everything's going to work. Had I exchanged this and given it to the dealer, I wouldn't have had this pulley, and it would have caused me some grief. So I was at least able to take the pulley off the old unit, put it on the new unit, and make it work. So now I just need to tighten up the two mounting bolts, and we should be able to give it a test start. I'm going to need to get another wrench for this. Be right back. Okay, my socket wasn't quite deep enough to finish that off, so I'll finish it off with a couple of wrenches here. Okay, I got all the bolts tight, belt's good and tight. Let's see if this thing will crank up. And again, I have it in the maintenance mode, so it's not going to go into gear. I can start it in neutral. Turn the key on and press the accelerator pedal. Yeah, it starts, it even runs in the right direction, that's good. Well, that was a successful troubleshooting and installation. The only issue I had was, like I mentioned, the pulley was incorrect. It was for a flat belt, not for a V belt. But again, by having the old one to swap the pulley on, I was able to save the day with that without too much hassle. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Like and subscribe if you will, and I'll be back with some more stuff